Hey guys, it's Austin here with OutJeeping. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a walk around of my Jeep Cherokee. Now I know a lot of you guys have been asking in all my videos on what I've done to all this Jeep, so I'm just going to go over today on the story of how I got my Jeep and what I've all done to it over the past 5 or 6 years. So let's get right into it. Alright, so first thing I'll go over on the first big projects I did when I first got this Jeep. I basically had it stock for about 6 months, and then I started looking into lift kits, and the first lift kit I put on this thing was a 4.5 inch rough country lift kit with the Apillar, and it was a good starter lift kit, but since then I've swapped out basically all the parts except for the shackles that are in the rear for new and better stuff. But if you're just starting out, rough country lift kit isn't bad because it has all the parts you need if you don't really know the suspension that well. So I basically started with that 4.5 inch suspension, and I got some second-handed 31 BFG all-terrain tires, which looked a little bit small on it since it was 4.5 inches. 33s would have fit well, which is what's on here right now. But another thing I did do when I did the lift kit was I actually swapped the rear axle. Now this vehicle came with a low pinion Dana 30 and a Dana 35 in the rear, and as some of you know, that isn't really the best option for a Jeep because they're pretty weak axles, and the low pinion Dana 30, it's not terrible, but you get a little bit better ground clearance and a little bit more strength with a high pinion Dana 30, and you get better pinion angle in the front for your transfer case, so you don't have any vibrations going down the road. So what I did initially is I picked up a Chrysler 8 1/4 for about like $80, and without knowing it had 307 gears in it, which would have came in a Jeep Cherokee manual, but this was an automatic, so I needed 355s to match the front low pinion Dana 30 at the time. So I had to buy another one for about $80 or so too, and I swapped the gears into that because I actually went and sandblasted the entire axle, and I did the Jeep Grand Cherokee disc brake swap on there. So I got disc brakes in the rear, and they work absolutely phenomenal. And I also finished it off with a rough stuff, I think it's like a 1/2 inch steel diff cover, and it's absolutely bulletproof, and I'm really happy for that. So once I had my Jeep on 31s and a 4.5 inch lift, I realized I need some better tires because the BFG 31s I had on here, they're all dry rotted, and actually one of them broke a belt, so I had to get something different. And what I got was just some another second-handed 33 mud terrain tire. I think they're Nanking Mud Stars. They're okay tires, but they're on the cheap side, but they did great for a while. So I had those on there. They came with some rims, got them for like $500. I had to replace one of them because it was cupped, but I was able to have that on my Jeep for about a year, and I sold it for the same price as I bought it, minus buying a brand new tire for it. And then once I got rid of those Alright, so this was the point here where my camera mic actually died, and I replaced the battery right after this clip. But what I was finishing off on was saying that I right now have 33 inch tires on there. They are Goodyear Duratrax, and I did get them second-handed, but I got a good deal on them. Only had to replace one tire because it's worn weird, but they still have plenty of tread on there, and that's probably what I'm going to be having on there until I get 35s in the future. And here I'm talking about the fender flares I have in the Jeep. They are Napier Precision Products flat flares, and I believe there's a coupon code for Bleepin' Jeep out there that I used, and you get about $50 off. So if you're curious about that, go visit their website. So starting with the front of the Jeep, what I have on it right now is a Goliath off-road swamper bumper, and I absolutely like this thing. It had a fantastic price, made in the USA, right down in Florida. I talked with people that work there. They made a custom pre-runner bar for me. I had one earlier that was a little bit shorter, and I wanted it to be bolt-on in case I do have to pull engine or work on the front or whatever. I did have to remove the whole entire bumper because that's a pain in the butt to do by yourself. So I had that on there, and then I actually hit a tree while off-roading down at the Cliffs Insane Terrain Off-Road Park. So I actually cracked a couple of the mounts, so they built another one for me, and someone backed up in my driveway and hit that and kind of bent it a little bit more. They made it a little bit beefier than before, but now in the future I think I'm just going to cut off these tabs and weld it straight to my bumper. That way I don't have to worry about it anymore. So up here on top of the bumper I have a 20-inch double row LED light bar made by Rough Country. I got that for free from one of my grandpa's friends, so I just decided to throw it on there. I also have these aux beam spot beams, which are pretty nice. I did have condensation behind one of the lenses, and I took it all apart, and it turns out it was just a seal behind there, so I just put some RTV and haven't had a problem since, but those are still working great. I have some truck light knockoff LED headlights. They're alright. They don't really have the best beam pattern as a real truck light would, so I only paid like 140 bucks on like Roku or Rolu.com or something like that has those LED lights. I also got the smoke turn signals up here from Amazon. Those are pretty cheap. And I also have a stock grill. This one just had a silver grill, and I decided to put some truck bed coating on there by Duplicolor, and that has turned out fine. Just a couple little chips, probably from not sanding in all the corners at all, but I can probably put another coat on there in the future. Now I do have some grill inserts in here. These are some mesh aluminum. I got them for like 20 bucks off of eBay by Custom Car Grills, and I think they have a nice sharp appearance on there, so I just put those in place and they look pretty nice. So up here on the Apillar I have some LED spotlights, and they're made by Nyoko or something like that. They were sent to me by a sponsor, so I basically got them for free and made a video. I'll post that in the link below. And up here I have a visor for a Jeep Cherokee. Now I get a lot of questions about this and where I found it. Basically I just looked on Craigslist and I saw it on a 96 Cherokee, I believe, that was for sale, and I'm like, hey, were you willing to sell this? So the guy was, and I scored it for only about 40 bucks, and it is an original lung visor for a Jeep Cherokee, so that's pretty cool. I basically sanded it and just did some truck bed coating on there, and it works fine. And I got some amber LEDs for the lights, so those all work with the parking lights, and it looks great. I also did add some Rugged Ridge rain visors for the windows, and I like the way they look. They drop down a little bit more than usual, which is nice because you can actually crack open your window a little bit more, but I think they give it a nice sleek look. Now moving down here to my rocker panels, these are actually 2x6 weld-in rockers. Basically I just made it out of a 2x6 piece of steel and kind of shaped it to what I want, and it fit right in there on where the existing rocker panel will go. And I did dovetail the front a little bit and capped it off, so these are 100% sealed up. I also did add some frame supports. I got 2 of them on each side. They're just basically 2x4 pieces of steel welded to the bottom side of the 2x6 rocker all the way to the frame rail. Now this process was really time consuming because I had to weld to all this sheet metal and it would burn through really good, but I basically POR 15 the inside of the existing rocker and the outside and put some truck bed coating and sealed it all up, so I shouldn't have any rust issues ever again in the future. And here's a look down here and what I did for the frame support. Just basically have it welded down to the frame, onto the frame stiffener. Now back here on the bodywork, what I did was the cut and fold on the rear, because basically my rear quarter panels were all rusted out once you take off the plastic bumper caps, so I decided to just seal it all up. I did have some floor rust in there on the inside, so I had to pull out all the carpets and redid all the rust spots in the floor and got that all patched up, POR 15, and it's all ready to go. So this came out really nice and smooth. There's no rust on here anymore. I did this about a year ago. Maybe in the future I'll do a video on how to do this, because this actually came out pretty clean and I'm proud of that. And for the rear back here, I basically just have some tinted tail lights I got off of eBay. They're about 60 bucks, and then I just put a stock rear bumper on here. My old one had a dent in it, so I just painted that one up and threw it on here. Eventually what I would like to do is put a aftermarket bumper on here that would go with the cut and fold, so it would protect all of this right up in here. I know Ours Fab and a couple other companies have a nice one, but my problem would be I would have to hook it up to where the hitch bolts would go, and I got a few things that are going on for this Jeep. Is I got the shackle relocation, which goes into those holes, and then inside the frame I actually had to cut all that out and patch it up with some 1/4 inch and put some frame stiffeners over that. So it's kind of tricky on what I'm going to choose for this back way. I might have to do some custom work for the bumper. Alright, so moving on to the suspension, which is the fun stuff to talk about. Basically what I have here is a high pinion Dana 30. I got that from another Jeep after I bent a lower control arm mount on my low pinion Dana 30 from off-roading. So I decided to do a high pinion swap, so I got that in there. It only has 355 gears right now, but it does have a lunchbox locker from my video a couple of years ago, and it's been doing fine since. It does make a couple bangs here and there, but so far it's been holding up just fine. Now I do have Cab Fab's 1-ton crossover steering. I got a video for that. That's holding up just fine. No slap in the joints yet. And I got Rubicon Express 5.5-inch coil springs up here. They were swapped out from the 4.5-inch Rough Country lift kit. I also got the Rubicon Express sway bar drop brackets along with their links over here, which are disconnect, and they have some Zerk fittings, so they're pretty nice high quality ones. And then I also have the over-the-axle track bar system by Traillogic Industries. And that's just basically a weld-on mount to the top part of the axle here, and it goes to my Rubicon Express track bar bracket on the frame. And I also have a Rubicon Express track bar brace that goes from the top of the frame rail over there all the way back to the passenger side. I also have some 5.5-inch Bilstein shocks, which ride really good on the road and perform awesome off-road. And then I do have Iron Rock off-road frame stiffeners all the way from front to rear on this Jeep. And I did that over the last few years, just doing one section at a time, and this spring I finished up with the front section. Now coming over here to the long arm setup, I originally had short arms with the Rough Country lift kit, but I upgraded to a 3-link suspension. Basically replaces your cross member, and you have 3 links, 2 lower control arms and 1 upper control arm going to the top side of the pumpkin. And this was made by Big 6 Motorsports, which I don't think they sell this kit anymore, and it used to be Beeley's Off-Road, which was pretty popular. And basically the company split into Big 6 Motorsports and Traillogic Industries, which still carries a kit, and it's basically the same exact thing. So if you want a kit, check out Traillogic Industries. Now here in the back, I swapped out my Add-A-Leaf leaf springs for 3.5-inch Rubicon Express leaf springs, and along with that I kept my Rough Country shackles in the back here, so it lifts it up about 1 inch, and then I have some shackle relocation brackets by Ironman 4x4, and that lifts it another inch, so it is about 5.5-inch of lift in the rear. So originally I didn't have the 5.5-inch coil springs up front, I had the 4.5-inch, but it was giving a little bit of a rake, so I decided to level it out with the 5.5-inch. And then I also got some Bilstein shocks. I don't have anything in the rear, it's just an open differential as of now with still 355 gears. I do plan to go 456 with the Detroit locker in the rear and keep the lunchbox in the front and gear that to 456 as well. As far as exhaust, while I'm here I'll go over that. Originally I just had all the cats on there with a Flowmaster Super 44, but I decided to upgrade that because actually the since it's a 2001 it has a California emissions on there, so it had the 2 pre-cats that go right off the exhaust manifold, and it actually right where it goes to the downpipe, that joint cracked, so I decided to redo it, get rid of all the cats, and now I just have a Flowmaster Super 44 with no catalytic converters, and I think it sounds pretty gnarly. Alright, so under here I have a slip yoke eliminator on my MP231 transfer case. It's done well so far. I have a video on how to install that, and I basically just use a stock front drive shaft for a Jeep Cherokee, and it seems to work perfect for a rear drive shaft. I probably will upgrade in the future to a Adams drive shafts or something a little bit more beefier, but this is doing well for now. Alright, so looking under the hood real quick, it is a little bit dirty. I do have to wash this, but I basically sank it last time, so that's why it's all dirty up in here, but I'll explain that in a minute. But basically what I got on here is 12-hole injectors. I got them from K Suspension, and I haven't had a problem yet. Got a video on that. And then I also have a bored out throttle body on here, which gives it a lot more throttle response, and no problems with that either. I also have a video for that. And then coming over here, I have the upgraded battery cables on here. I got these from jeepcables.com, and I got a video on how to install that. I did that earlier in the year and haven't had a problem since. But that's pretty much it on all the upgrades. I don't have anything really into the engine. I've just, done seals and everything. I've done freeze plugs, head gasket, oil pan gasket, valve cover gasket, basically all the gaskets in here except for the timing cover. Oh, and I do have a 3-row full aluminum radiator. You can probably see it down in there. This is one of the cheaper eBay ones I got for like 120 bucks, and I haven't had any problems since. People say they only last a year or two, but mine's been holding up just fine. I haven't had any leaks yet. Now, I do want to upgrade to a cowl intake in the future, which basically takes the intake over there, goes over the engine, and up here into the cowl you have to drill a hole. That way you can get rid of your air box, and then your air intake will be up higher. Because last time I went wheeling, I had water way over the hood, and it sucked in a little bit of water, I think, because the air filter was all wet and it was sputtering and everything. So I think I'll do that this winter, get that all ready for next summer for wheeling. So it's 20 degrees outside right now, so I jumped inside and I'll show you the interior real quick. Basically what I got in here, I'll start off. I got a headliner. This is probably the first headliner I've done, and it's basically just a plaid fleece. The first headliner I've done in vehicles, and actually turned out pretty nice. I added this overhead console. This was out of a ZJ. I still have to get this computer hooked up, so I just got to figure out the wires and I should be able to hook that all up. But I got the lights and everything to work, and it actually looks pretty nice in here. Now, when I did swap out the doors, I also did take the door panels, which are these gray on black ones. This Jeep was originally black on black, and I thought since it's a silver Jeep, it would look better with the gray ones, because these gray panels only came on the 97 to 99, didn't come on the 2000 to 2001. So I swapped these in here, and I think it looks pretty nice. I also have a Pioneer single DIN radio right here with a aux, USB, CD, AM, FM. Works pretty nice. I've had this in here basically since I bought the Jeep, and it's still working great. Up here I have these switches. I got all my lights for my Apillar lights, my light bar, and my fog lights on the bumper. And then I also have a fan override switch right here. You can probably hear it, but I have a video on how to install that if you're interested. Also, these little things are by Rugged Ridge, and they're originally for a TJ, and you just have to make some simple modifications on cutting off the tabs back there, and they fit right in here for an XJ. You're not able to move these around at all, you know, as you normally would for heat, but I normally have it on the floor anyway because I don't like it in my face, so works out for me. Coming down here, I have a USB in-dash mount. Basically just took out the old cigarette lighter and put that in, so every time you turn on the ignition you have 2 powered USB ports. And down here I have my transmission temperature gauge. This is by Glow Shift. I got an install video on this, and I forgot to mention I do have an aftermarket transmission cooler by Hayden. I got a video install on that, but basically where I have this routed, I have it going through the heat exchanger in the radiator, and then it goes through the aftermarket transmission cooler and then back to the transmission. So it cools it off pretty well, and actually too well, I think, especially during the winter time. I'm not even able to get the transmission over 80 degrees, so I'm thinking on a future project I might do a thermostatic switch, so it switches between the transmission cooler and going straight back to the transmission, so that way it's able to warm up to operating temperature. Now in the back of the Jeep I do have a sub box with a 500 watt amp and 2 Rockford Fosgate 10-inch subs, and then I also have rear Rockford Fosgate 6.5-inch 3-way speakers. And then up front here I have 5 1/4 inch in the doors, and then I also have 1 1/4 inch Rockford Fosgate tweeters, which sound amazing. So this thing bumps pretty good. I also did make a custom shelf in the rear, which holds my spare tire underneath it, along with all the other stuff I need. Sub boxes on top, and then I have some other bungee straps to keep other stuff down in place. So I basically got everything I need for off-roading in the rear. Extra tools, straps, D-rings. It all fits back there. I know it takes a lot of the trunk space, but I mean, it's not my daily driver anymore, so I don't need it for loading any other things. This Jeep does have about 253,000 miles on it right now. I got it at 202, like I said before, so put on about 50,000 miles the last few years. Alright guys, so that's going to be a wrap for today's video. I just thought I would do a quick walk around since a lot of people are asking what's all on my Jeep, and this is what I could think of on the top of my head. I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of things, so if you see anything and I don't cover it, make sure to leave a comment below and I'll try to answer it the best I could. So if you like this video, make sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe to the OutJeeping YouTube channel to help keep these videos coming. So until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.